Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. Coming to you from the Sports Interaction Studio, where we always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playalog. The Bichette market just took a significant turn as he has made it clear to other teams that now he would be interested in moving over to second base long term. How is that going to affect his market value as a whole? How is that going to affect the teams that are interested in him? And ultimately, how is that going to affect the Toronto Blue Jays' chances of bringing him back? We're going to get into all of that, but please let us know your thoughts down below. Hit that like, smash that subscribe button, and if you have the option to do so, hit the hype button as well, because it certainly helps smaller creators like us grow. This was posted by Mark Feinsand yesterday, and apparently, according to him, Bichette is starting to tell teams he'd be willing to move to second base.
Yeah, this was expected. His market was not out there to be a shortstop for multiple reasons. One, a lot of teams aren't looking for shortstops right now. In fact, you look around the league, there's pretty much plugged holes everywhere, in terms of the shortstop position. And Bichette, while he's a great shortstop in terms of the bat, defensively speaking, not so much. And that is the other point right there. He's just not that good of a defender, ladies and gentlemen. We know we've been over this multiple times, but the outs above average, it's in the 1 percentile. The arm strength, it's at 36 percentile. That's just not good enough for today's baseball, where you got to have that athleticism, that defense at shortstop position as a bare minimum. It's not going to cut it. However, what can cut it is if you want to go over to second base, that arm is better suited there. The range might be better suited there. And obviously, they would be happy to plug you into your lineup with that bat if you're willing to play second base. And a lot of other teams have openings over there at second base.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that it took him this long to, I guess,
realize.
or just, kind of start entertaining that. I guess maybe he really wanted to enter the market as a shortstop, see where teams are at. And who knows, right? Maybe there was a team out there that would have been willing to do it. I guess that wasn't the case. And now him and his representation has decided, actually, from a monetary standpoint, it is a lot better to market yourself as a shortstop. And
second baseman,
second baseman, thank you very much. Because to your point, there's just so many teams out there that already have their guy at shortstop. And, you think about the second base out there, and there's not a whole lot of top tier second baseman. We think about Ketel Marte, and he's the guy, right? Like when it comes to second baseman, he's the guy. In years prior, it's been Ozzie Albies. Years prior to that, it's been Jose Altuve.
Marcus Semien that 1 year.
That 1 year. But very rarely, do you think about second baseman as being a real strength of teams. I look at somebody like a Bichette, and whilst I'm not about to tell you that he's going to immediately become the best defensive second baseman ever.
Oh, no.
I mean, I could certainly see him being a cornerstone at that position for a long period of time. And when I think about, drafting my fantasy baseball team, I certainly would be targeting Bichette at second base.
Oh, yeah. This is the best of both worlds kind of situation. If you're a team, I get a really great bat, and I can keep, if I already had an elite shortstop defensively, at shortstop. I mean, it's one of the many reasons why we've been screaming for years, especially this past year. We want Bichette to move to second base because we got Andres Gimenez so great defensively over there. But yeah, you're right. Not a lot of teams are really needing a shortstop, but a lot of teams do need a second baseman, and that was reported right here by Mark Feinsand. Far more clubs are looking at him as for help at second base than shortstop, and so Bo's willingness to switch positions should bring more teams into his services. And I think that's inevitably what it is. We've been hearing that not a lot of teams are interested in him, but now that he was switching over to second base, I think you're going to start to see a lot of openings for another team, being like, oh, okay, you want to play second base? Well, let me jump back into your market right here. And there's a few teams out there that are needing second basemen. The Dodgers are named as one. The Red Sox, the Giants, the Mariners, and the Rangers could all be potential fits. Of course, your Toronto Blue Jays are another, but that just goes to show with all these other teams, now the market's starting to pick up for him a little bit, and he might get paid a lot more than we could anticipate for a second base.
That's the thing, man. There was no market for him as a shortstop, and I understand that if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, you didn't really want to just jump in and pay him like a shortstop, because ultimately you'd probably not be playing him as a shortstop, right? So you don't want to do that. But now you've waited so long, and now that he's started to adjust, I think you're going to have a shitload more competition for him. They just list a couple teams right there, Dodgers, Red Sox, whatever. They don't even bring up the Yankees. I could 100% see Bichette going over to the New York Yankees. If they need some help in the infield right there, put him at second base. Makes a whole lot of sense to me. And frankly, there's just a ton of other teams that you can throw out there where it's can you name the second baseman of, like X team? Maybe not.
Right.
And Bo Bichette would certainly be an upgrade over to whoever they have at that position. So for me, like, this honestly is great news for Bo Bichette because I think his market is about to flourish. But it is a little scary for the Toronto Blue Jays because I think that they are about to run into a ton more competition for him. And you're going to see now, if there's a bidding war, his price tag start to creep up anyways.
Yeah, it is bad news for the Toronto Blue Jays that he is willing to move over because of what you said right there. And now you're having a situation where Bo Bichette doesn't have to wait on you anymore, Toronto Blue Jays. Like, we know, we've been talking for a long time here on this channel. It's been Kyle Tucker. That's been the main focus this offseason, and rightfully so. I would love to have Kyle Tucker on this team, but your plan B, Bo Bichette, now doesn't have to wait for you anymore. If there is a bunch of other teams offering you what you want, and Blue Jays are just flirting with Tucker because he could take as long as he wants being the #1 free agent and no one other domino needs to fall, if I'm Bo Bichette, I might just consider going with one of these other teams if I'm getting the right offer right now, which is concerning.
Exactly. And speaking of Tucker taking his time, that is still the consensus right now.
Yeah.
This was from Jeff Passan. This was a couple hours ago, mind you. Now, he brings up Bregman and Bellinger. We haven't talked a whole lot about those guys on this channel just because ultimately we haven't been linked to them too much. But for those of you who are wondering, Passan believes that those two individuals, they want a long-term deal and they ain't budging because both of them have already done the short-term deal. So it makes sense. They don't want to have to go down that road again. He brings up Tucker after that, though, and says, look, Tucker's in a great spot right now. He's still the belle of the ball. He's still the guy. He can wait. He can afford to be patient. And he brings up Toronto as well. He says, even though there's a lot of clear ties to Toronto, if you're Kyle Tucker, you can afford to wait on this. And then he brings up Bo Bichette, and he doesn't bring up the defense here because I guess from his standpoint, we still, at this point, he didn't know exactly what he was going to do, but he brought up the fact that Bo Bichette gets a lot of bloody hits, man. Now that he's a second baseman, and on top of the fact that his resume has indicated that he can be very strong offensively speaking when he is healthy, I see a lot more teams interested in Bo Bichette, and it is a little scary for Toronto because if you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting on Kyle Tucker to do this thing and decide, and then you see Bo Bichette leave the board, that to me is when I'm going to start to feel the pressure. I've been laying back thinking we're comfortable. We're going to get one of these guys because in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, if Kyle Tucker goes elsewhere, you can always fall back on Bo Bichette. Doesn't feel like he's going to be the fallback plan anymore.
Now, I know there's a lot of people out there right now that are, I saw it in the comments yesterday when I made my video room. There's a lot of people in the comments that are concerned that why are we going for Kyle Tucker right now? We should be getting back Bo Bichette. Does this concern you at all that just trying to take it all the way back, stepping back from this offseason, going back to the World Series, seeing that 3-run homer, seeing him be with the Blue Jays for so long? Does it concern you that we're just willing to kind of let his market develop? We're going to focus on on Kyle Tucker, and then we're okay with him kind of walking and grabbing Tucker instead?
Well, I hope that they're not completely out of the Bo Bichette, conversations or anything like that. I assume that Toronto's still talking with him, and I would imagine that numbers have been exchanged back and forth. So who knows? Maybe the fact that he's a second baseman now, maybe that brings Toronto back to the table. Maybe they were out on this whole thing, and now the fact that he is a second baseman brings them back into the fold, whilst it is also bringing other teams. I will say this to all the people that are concerned about that, because I get it. We've been there before. Put all the eggs into the Shohei Ohtani basket, put all the eggs into the Soto basket, I guess, if you will, and ended up with nothing. Scared money don't make money. and sometimes if you want to hit a home run, you got to take a big swing. It might mean that you strike out, but then if you actually make contact, that ball is going 450 feet. That kind of feels like what it is with Kyle Tucker. And I do think that we're in the best situation still out of any team to actually make contact on that ball and to hit a home run here. So yes, it is scary. Yes, it is a high risk, high reward type thing. Because if you see Bo Bichette leave the board and then it's like, well Tucker decides that he's going to go to the Dodgers and win a World Series there, that's going to fucking suck and it will hurt. However, when you have the best odds to go and to get that guy, I would argue that it would be irresponsible to not play for the big time play in getting the guy in Kyle Tucker.
And look, we could compare them to the cows come home. We could compare their numbers all you want, but they effectively are very similar in age. Kyle Tucker's 28, Bo Bichette's 27 right now, but he's a great contact hitter. He's got some power. He's got the legs underneath him, at least for right now. You know, his running speeds are getting down there, but he's still got some stolen bases under his belt. He's smart in that sense, and he's got, you know, the ability to not strike out, and you know, he's got the ability to earn a walk. He's one of the best in baseball, and he's going to be with your team for the next 8 to 9 to 10 years. So if you get Kyle Tucker, you are effectively building a window right now that could last even longer than Bo Bichette, I would argue, because Bo Bichette, the type of deal he might get might be 5, 6. Kyle Tucker could be here for quite a long time and would be the better option. And I do feel like it sucks to see maybe Bo Bichette walk and go to another team, but that's his right. He's earned the right to hit free agency, to go test out the market. We didn't know what he was worth. He didn't know what he was worth. He had to find that out, and if he finds that out in another team, but we still land a number 1 free agent that could be arguably better, that's the way it's got to be, and we got to move on.
Exactly, right? And, you know, kind of just circling back to that whole point of, like, everyone being, like, scared. Well, we're, you know, if we miss out on Tucker, like, we got to go get Bo and everything like that. I mean, for those poker lovers out there, I just thought of this analogy right now, okay? For those poker lovers, Toronto is the heavy favorite to land Kyle Tucker, okay? Let's just say you have pocket kings, all right? Because that's what it feels like with Toronto right now to go and get Kyle Tucker.
He lives in Tampa, you know what I mean?
We're in a good spot. We're in a really... It would be
match up well offensively, yes.
It would be irresponsible to be a bad play if you didn't go all in. It would, right? Yeah. Now, you could still lose. You could still get beat. And I will admit, you could still get beat. And that would suck. But the odds say that you should be going all in with the hand that you have right now. I still like our chances a lot to get Kyle Tucker. It will be a dagger if we miss out on him, especially if Bo walks. But I think with this added, you know, new wrinkle that Bo Bichette's marketing him as a second base, you still talk with Bo, you're still in those conversations, but now there is a bit of a sense of urgency to go and get the Kyle Tucker deal done.
And also, like, going back to the whole Bo Bichette thing, just because he's going, you know, saying I'm willing to open up and play second base, still doesn't mean that teams necessarily are going to offer him the contract that he wants, because he obviously had a number he wanted, and if he's going to play second base, our team's going to value that the same as him playing shortstop. Like, you know what I mean? He's still a great bat. Don't get me wrong. But if it's still not matching the number that's in his head or his camp's head, he still might take a shorter-term deal with opt-outs. He might pull the Bellinger and the Bregman and then try again the following offseason. That's totally normalized in today's free agency. So it's not completely out of the option that the Blue Jays would be entertaining that as well.
Exactly. And again, this doesn't mean we're going to lose him. It just it does mean that there's going to be more competition for him. But hey, man, like,
that's free agency.
That's how it goes. That's literally just how it goes, man. So this is the situation that the Toronto Blue Jays have found themselves in right now. It would make me feel a lot better if they just lock down Kyle Tucker soon. But I think, honestly, patience is still going to be the name of the game. At this current juncture of time, being December 18th as of recording, I got a feeling that these boys, those 4 gentlemen that Jeff Passan just listed off, I think we're going past Christmas.
Yeah, I did a prediction on my last video room. January. You know, this feels like a very much Bryce Harper, Manny Machado type of offseason where it's like, it was just clear it was just that guy, and, you know, Kyle Tucker being that guy. Just one dude that was clearly the dominant dude, you know, and there wasn't like a mega talent like the Otanis or Sotos, just an elite guy. And that guy waited till January because he knew he could.
Well,
you know?
And I'm thinking it might be the same thing with
all these guys,
with Bregman, and now with Bo too. Right now that he's saying he's a second baseman, he's still got to wait for that market to develop.
That's got to develop.
Like, he's going to have all these meetings again. He's got to do all that, and Christmas time is going to slow that down. So patience, name of the game. I'm thinking maybe early in the new year we're going to hear something more, and hopefully, fingers crossed. The one thing I do request: do not go to the New York Yankees.
Don't,
please.
That would suck. I'd be very confused. But guys, let us know your thoughts about everything we talked about in the comments down below. Please hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. It's only $4 a month to become a YouTube member. Shout out and thank you to all of our current YouTube members. You guys are absolutely amazing.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and as always,
go Jays, go!